Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by Stay Sharpening, Mower, Sales, and Service. How's everybody doing? Closing out here another week on the OBR streaming channels. Appreciate everybody who's been following along. We actually sat down, looked at some of the numbers today. It's really been a nice, impressive growth spurt here over the last month. We try, obviously, to put together this nightly content for you after you guys get a day's worth of written content from everybody here. Make sure you subscribe, of course, to the RBR on YouTube, over on Twitch as well. The quarterback conversation is just not going to go away. And, this, again, it's the most important position in all professional sports. And, for the Browns, and, certainly it seems like a name that has risen in, let's just say, popularity, because we're certainly not getting any information from the Cleveland Browns, even though he will be their first official 30 visit on March 4th, Shedeur Sanders. First, I want to say is if everybody's going to talk themselves into Shedeur Sanders, Browns-wise, I guess we just get that gut feeling that, that will be the Tennessee Titans selection at 1 overall, I guess. Just seems to be that's the way things work around here. But in all actuality, the Browns have some stiff competition as far as, teams that need quarterbacks, what's going to be available in the veteran market, what's going to be available in the draft. This is certainly an advantage for Tennessee and Cleveland, being these teams that need quarterbacks and holding the number 1 and the number 2 selections in this draft. So certainly, Tennessee and Cleveland have that going for them. Tennessee, essentially, if they can fall in love with one of these 2 prospects, they believe they'll be set. The Browns ideally need to fall in love with one of them, but hopefully have a strong affinity for both of them as far as the rookie class. The veteran market, there's a lot of competition. I mean, let's just, be honest here. Taking this in draft order, we know Tennessee needs a quarterback. We know the Browns need a quarterback. We know the New York Giants need a quarterback. We know the Raiders most likely need a quarterback. We know the New York Jets most likely need a quarterback. Saints picking 9th. New head coach Kellen Moore. You have to assume that, Kellen Moore wants to go find his quarterback as well. That takes you to about 5 teams right there. Pittsburgh Steelers, certainly a team that are going to be in the Q quarterback market. So there's going to be a lot of competition for what is a very shallow pool, and even more shallow as far as when you're factoring in, the talent level of these guys. If you ever said that an Aaron Rodgers was going to be available, everybody would be foaming at the mouth. Probably not the case so much anymore. And who knows with Aaron Rodgers? He's been a quirky son of a gun, no doubt about it. Aaron may play, may not play, whatever it is. And, watching what unfolded with the New York Jets over the last 2 years, where basically he went in and just everything he told them going into it and just basically said, no, I'm going to be running things once he got there, and just ended up costing a bunch of people their jobs. Certainly not a route I want to go. Russell Wilson, I mean, I understand. But Russ wasn't actually as bad as people think he was last year. The question is how much has Russ got left in the tank as far as if he were a predominant part of your offense? Are you going to get the hopeful 18, 19, 20 games that, a contending team would certainly hopefully and want to play in a season? So Browns can certainly contend in the free agent market, and I have no doubts that they're going to bring in a veteran quarterback. But again, if they are comfortable with either Ward or Sanders, and, as I said yesterday, that is in their back pocket. So they don't have to get into a bidding war. If they think, I guess you just keep going back to that name, Sam Darnold. If they think Sam Darnold, who, I would just have to say the way it all works here, and after what he did last year, Sam Darnold is probably the most prominent name on this list of possibly available quarterbacks. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about what exactly is Minnesota's plan. I don't know how you bring back Sam Darnold. You could try to bring back Daniel Jones, but at 28 years old, Daniel Jones may not get another opportunity where he can walk in the door and basically be, told he's QB1 until he doesn't do enough to be QB1. So I don't know what that would do for Daniel Jones staying with the Minnesota Vikings, with J.J. McCarthy just waiting there in the wings. And, certainly, hopefully the reports are that J.J. McCarthy, is back fully healthy, ready to go, because the Minnesota Vikings were just absolutely geeked and stoked about their young signal caller until it, got shut down extremely, extremely early in August. And his whole season was gone. And that was before week 2 when they were scheduled to come play, of course, the Cleveland Browns in the preseason. So it's not going to be an easy path by any means whatsoever. This is, there is competition. And, last year where you had so many quarterback needy teams and it just worked out well. And, everybody, had some surprise at the quarterbacks going that early. But I think everybody was kind of like, well, let's just get this quarterback movement out of the way, and then let's just get to the rest of the draft. This year it's certainly going to be the key to how, the draft gets started, how round 1 gets started. Is Tennessee looking to move that pick? Does Tennessee want to take one of these 2 quarterbacks? The Browns desperately need improvement at the quarterback position. Technically, right now, the only guy you would have if you wanted to hold a practice today would be DTR. Not a knock on DTR, although I do think, when it all comes said and done at the end of the summer, DTR will no longer be with this team. Browns are most likely going to go 2 veterans and a rookie is my guess, or, a rookie and 2 veterans. Either way, they're bringing in 3 quarterbacks. That has been my stance. That will continue to be my stance on, the way Cleveland should handle this, and pretty much just reading the tea leaves on the way they are going to handle this. Sam Darnold going from inside in Minnesota to having to play outside in Cleveland. Is it something he wants to, challenge himself with? Wild card certainly in Rodgers and Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields and Daniel Jones. So a lot of these questions at the quarterback position for these teams could be and should be addressed, before we kick it off in late April in Green Bay, Wisconsin, with the NFL draft. And the actions that we see from the Cleveland Browns as far as their pursuing of veteran quarterbacks. And also just drop this in here for if you're any team who's got an extra quarterback, or you're set at your starter, you might have a prime opportunity here to move a backup quarterback for some decent value over inflated value. So certainly something to watch here for a lot of the other NFL teams. But you're going to get into this, and their actions will tell us. I mean, if they are going heavy after Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, they're rumored to all these quarterbacks, that might just tell us everything we need to know about their interest level. I'm not saying that they still wouldn't go heavy after a veteran quarterback and be more than content with Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders at 2. As we spoke about here during this week, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes did not start his first game till the final regular season game of his rookie season. Lamar Jackson did not start from day 1. Those teams were certainly in better positions at the time than the Browns are. But I also feel that, yes, the Browns were 3-14 last year. I think so many of you with the talk of the rebuild, I think this team is a lot closer to being back to contention like they were in 2023 than they are certainly a lot closer to a rebuild. I think people who are viewing this as the only way, for the Browns to go right now is rebuild mode. I think it's a little disingenuous. I think you're still dealing with a little broken heart on Valentine's Day over the 2024 season. I think you'll come around. I think you'll all start to come around and realize that this team is better than that 3-14 record indicated. There were some guys who had down years. Certainly the tackling was a travesty. Doesn't mean those things cannot improve. Does not mean those things will not improve. We talked yesterday, and certainly one of the biggest hurdles the Cleveland Browns have to address and basically get a final decision on for the 2025 offseason is certainly what is going to play out as far as Myles Garrett, the trading him, the not trading him, possibly extending him, trying to find a way to appease him. This is obviously right now front burner for what the Browns are doing, because that domino basically can lead to the path of what the entire offseason is going to be. And if he's moved, it's not going to be a very impactful offseason by any means whatsoever. There is another hurdle, and we'll get to that here after a quick word from the fine folks over at State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. If you're local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. We appreciate the guys over there. And look, you want to spend your Sundays watching the Browns, not cutting your grass. Let the guys at State help you get your weekend back. They specialize in both residential and commercial equipment for Toro, the brand professionals have counted on for more than 100 years. Whether you're looking for a new or a dependable time cutter, zero turn, genuine Toro replacement parts, the expert service team over at State Sharp has great technicians who will keep your mower in peak condition. State has got your back. They are veteran-owned. The Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders. They're lifetime Browns fans and huge supporters of us here over at the ORR. Again, if you're local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Now, certainly on a different level, but, Joel Bitonio is another big decision that, the Browns are going to have to deal with here. No timetable and nothing really from Joel to this point. Joel, the family man. And we actually got a chance, Pete Smith and I, years ago on my previous show to talk with Joel. And, at the time there he was basically, in the prime of his career. I mean, gotta be 5-6 years ago. So, between maybe year 3, year 4. And it was after Joe, I just hung him up. And of course, during the JC Treader time, and, he had a great relationship with JC Treader. And, so Joel has seen firsthand with two good friends in Joe Thomas and certainly with JC Treader, when playing offensive line in the NFL can unfortunately come to the point where maybe it's, you're putting too much on yourself and certainly asking too much of yourself physically. Joel, after 10 years in this league, he certainly does not owe anybody another snap. So if he decides that this is best for him and it is time for him to move on to what is the next chapter of his life, God bless him. Certainly I would think there probably wants to be a little bit more, time for Joel to see, just kind of maybe what the Browns are putting together. And, I would have to think that is somewhat of a motivating factor, which whether or not he wants to put his body through this for an 11th season, certainly all fair points. But again, you have to remember he did have that relationship with two good friends who he watched, how miserable and difficult the end of a career certainly is on a guy rocking around at 320, 330 for a better part of a decade and a half. It's just not an easy thing to do. If Joel does decide it is, time to move on, you figure the natural progression certainly would be that Zach Zinter, comes in and is your left guard in 2025. It's actually a pretty good free agent guard class, and that's not something you usually say much. There are a lot of available solid names. We'll see the way it plays out and who actually gets to March 10th to be available. Time will tell certainly on that front. So if, your plan would be to move Zinter into the starting position, he certainly would sign a veteran, swing guy, to play either right or left. And, the unfortunate incident that either Teller or Zinter do miss some time. Javian Cohen is still here. He was an undrafted free agent last year, and the Browns had a lot of high aspirations, for him as an undrafted free agent. Don't take that for more than it was. So certainly he would be in the mix, with all these selections the Browns have. If they choose to make all 12, certainly, a reserve interior lineman would be something that they could, look to address, within the 2025 class as well. But, the future of the guard position, it seems pretty cut and dry. And, you got this week on the OBR from Jack Duffin. And if you're not checking those out, they're actually kind of fun. Jack basically gives you the ins and outs of the position, as far as, what they have done years in the past, and basically tries to set up, what would be the plan at each positional group here. And all of us here at the OBR chime in, of course, with our thoughts on, and basically what a, 2025 positional room would look like. And I hope you guys are enjoying that, because I know we all are over here. It's it's nice when you can put together a group effort project, not like in school where you just found the smartest kid and hope he did the project and everybody else just kind of put their name on the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was the guy who put the name on the bottom. So, those are obviously two of the biggest hurdles before they even get to everything else. I know so many people, and again, I mean, I hate to do this for a second day in a row, but my God, people, can we have any understanding about how the salary cap works, about what dead cap is? You got a lot of people out here just trying to say they're putting out content. Well, putting out content is great, but it's also making sure you're not rambling on like a dodo, and maybe just do a little bit of homework before you start saying, oh, well, people should make this move, or, trade for a long-haired, blonde-haired quarterback in Jacksonville. Learn about dead cap, please, because you're just wasting everybody's time. Or saying that any team that is interested in Myles Garrett must take Deshaun Watson's contract along with it. First of all, even if it was feasible, how is Myles going to a Super Bowl contending team that has that type of cap space to not only take on Myles, but take on Deshaun's contract? And then the Cleveland Browns pay $100 million for two guys that aren't. I mean, Jesus, God, my Lord, people. Please, before you speak, make sure it makes sense. I had a teacher when I was a kid. Jeffrey, before you ask this, say it out loud to yourself in your head and make sure it makes sense and you don't sound like an idiot. People, heed that advice, my friends. Now, I've talked a lot about the wide receiver position. And for those, who are new to me, obviously, I will tell you that's the most important position in the NFL, of course. And Judy was my guy, and Jerry Jeudy was my guy for a year and a half before the Browns even made the acquisition for him. And just stoked the way it all worked out. Because, look, we could throw a lot of stuff at the wall here, as, guys that do what we do. And then comes the, oh, wait, they did it. Okay, now the player needs to back it up, where everybody points the finger at you for being the guy to suggest, hey, go get so-and-so. Make that move. So that is, something that's interesting. And I was just doing some homework and having a couple of conversations on Shedeur Sanders. And one of the things, that, and I don't know if people were trying to knock Shedeur Sanders for this, was that his receivers produced a large amount of yards after catch. And I think it was like 1,100 yards. And in a Coach Stefanski offense, I got to be honest with you, that brings a lot of appeal. It does. Because we've seen some of the best of Kevin Stefanski's offense. And when we've seen it, it is, hey, there is David Njoku wide open, and guess what? Took it another 40 yards for a touchdown. There is Jerry Jeudy on a 10-yard crossing route and took it another 27 yards. So that is something where I think Shedeur Sanders' game, and I think everybody tries to do this, oh, he's a perfect fit for so-and-so. It's so hard to do that. And look, any coach is going to know, if I bring this guy in, I'm going to have to tweak this. I'm going to have to do a little bit more of this because it appeals more to what are someone's so-and-so strengths. And maybe, so everybody, there is no perfect fit. You have to strive to make it a perfect fit. I mean, you want it to be a fit, but you work hard to make it a perfect fit. But trying to say that Shedeur Sanders having a lot of yards after catch from his receivers was a negative on him is not something I'm going to listen to, because I think that is something that works certainly. Screen game was good as well, which works certainly within a Coach Stefanski offense. One of the alarming ones, and And this is when, again, when I talk about, the mobility factor. Um, Now, Baker Mayfield, who I don't think anybody, when he was coming out of Oklahoma, would have ever used the term, mobile. His legs are a weapon. Nobody would ever use that, right? Come on. Nobody did, right? Well, if this is something that you want to see that maybe scares you in regards to, Shedeur Sanders maybe just being a straight pocket guy, and look, that can win with elite pass protection. Baker Mayfield ran for more than 1,200 yards than Shedeur Sanders in college. 1,200. So for me, that is, and I'm not saying it's the be all end all and, red flag. And I can't do it because of that. But I mean, you want something that worries you. And especially the way football and the quarterback position is played in 2025. Just keep that in mind. Baker Mayfield ran for more than 1,200 yards than Shedeur Sanders in college. That's a staggering amount. As the process goes on and we get deeper in conversations, with friends in the draft community, and look, we've all been doing this for an extremely long time. And like one of the fun things that goes on this time of year is just when you get a message from a friend and say, "Oh, check this guy out. This is your type of dude. You'll love this guy." It's just something where after all this time, I mean, it's fun to do. For me and Pete Smith back and forth all the time. We've kind of adopted a metric system from our friend Jim Coburn. And, Jim does a nice thing. If you guys, anybody wants to know, reach out to either Pete and I. We will hook you up and, send you to the direction of Jim's YouTube page. But basically, Jim gives you, production comparisons and kind of leads to, comparisons between, players from the past. And his numbers go back a long time. A really, really long time. So if you want to ever do me a favor and go ahead, check out Jim Coburn's work, because Jim does a really, really good job. And it's certainly something that Pete and I have adopted, in the way that we, use as far as our evaluation process. Cam Ward, in some of these conversations, apparently Cam Ward got fired by his NIL agent because he was, doing some stupid things. So, guy was in charge of making sure that Cam Ward was getting nice fat NIL money. Also tell Cam Ward, "I'm sorry, I can't do this for you anymore." So that's certainly something, again, not the be all end all red flag, but as we go further down the line here, these things are going to come up. Mike Green from Marshall, I'm not going to say what it is. I've been told what it is. It's not going to be my story to tell. And, I don't know the significance that it's going to have on Mike Green and when or where he is drafted. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got a lot of skill. The edge class is going to be crazy weird this year because there's so many of them. And maybe in one of these instances, the combine might change a lot of things, because these guys all look ridiculously good and fast and athletic on tape. Well, the proof is certainly going to be in the pudding when everybody gets to Indianapolis and, are these numbers, correlating to what everybody thinks they're seeing on tape. A couple of guys will probably move up to do their athletic testing. A couple of guys might take a, drop down to their athletic testing. But, it's been mentioned, on social media, that there is, maybe something that from Mike Green's past that will come up at some point. I'm sure it'll eventually come up. I've heard what it is. Again, it's not my story to tell. It's not my story to break. That's not what I do here. What effect that has, we'll see. But I mean, these are things that certainly come up as well. And, these are things that are certainly huge as far as, whether or not you're taking a chance on somebody. Don't draft knuckleheads. Don't draft Antonio Callaways, for example. If the guy's known to have been a troublemaker, odds are once you hand him a contract and money, he will find his way into trouble yet again and again and again and again and again. All part of the draft process. The good teams try to find the squeaky clean guys, and there's no guarantee that squeaky clean guys stay squeaky clean either. certainly a roll of the dice both ways. Just, things that you have to do, things you have to look out for, your due diligence, your homework, that has to be done here. Somebody had something out the other day, and the Browns have the largest amount of scouts in the AFC North, and the Bengals have 4. I think the Browns were in the 20s. So I got to be honest, that's too much. That is too many guys. Because how does this all work when you're starting to lead up to putting together a board and finalizing a board and finalizing positional rankings? That is too many voices for me. I got to be completely honest with you. That is just too many people. And I'm not saying, you want a scouting department where basically everybody's of the same mind. No, because that would be foolish. But, you've got a general manager, you've got other front office personnel, you've got coaches and 20-something scouts. Man, that's way too much. Because I think at the end of the day, it's just too many varying opinions that you can't really find yourself the correct path to a consensus. That's like, your friend who, goes through everything on the internet trying to find the greatest deal on whatever, laptop, this, that, the other thing, and they spend 2.5 hours. And guess what? Oh, did you buy it? No. Fine. Because they just spent so much time, they just basically numbed their mind and, maybe talked themselves out of the product by that point. So 20-something scouts is absolutely just way too much. Not next weekend after NFL Combine. And again, that is when everything really picks up. And it's not just the NFL Combine and, the rookies and all of that stuff. It is basically the beginning of the league new year. And a lot of conversations that did not happen are happening as far as contract extensions, as far as free agent destinations, as far as beginning of trade talks. And well, hopefully for the rest of you that haven't gotten here yet, put the end to what was an absolutely miserable 2024 season for the Cleveland Browns. Again, just absolutely miserable. It truly was. I mean, other than watching Jerry Jeudy, I don't know really what much appeal there was from the 2024 Cleveland Browns season. Combine, I'm very interested. Travis Hunter's going to be working out apparently as a corner. Apparently will do wide receiver stuff if needed at his pro day. Look, I'm not going to stand here and pretend to say I know the correct answer for how a Travis Hunter should handle his draft cycle. And I'll be honest, his agent, who does know exactly what Travis Hunter should do or how he should handle this draft cycle, being as unique as he is? And I will tell you this, I have been having some conversations, and there are people, yes, the NFL game is a lot more physical, we all know that, but it's also played at a slower pace. Not as many plays are run. There are people who truly believe that he could go more Iron Man football in the NFL than most tend to believe. My biggest and first question about that is but if he gets hurt, you lose 2 position guys. That's just my thought. But there's a lot of guys I have been talking with that, are of the belief, why can't he give you 80 to 85% of the entire snap rate offense and defense? Certainly give him a blow on 1st and 10 on both sides of the ball. If on defense, you certainly want him out there on 3rd down and however the game works, certainly from there. 1st down offensively, he could be off the field. Because, you think about when you talk about, what, nickel and dime packages, your 3rd corner, your slot corner nowadays in the NFL is essentially a starter. Your 3rd wide receiver in the NFL these days is naturally a starter. So could he be your 3rd wide receiver and your number 2 corner? Seems, and that's where the confusion could lie, because, if you're going to spend a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 selection on him, to clarify him as, say, your number 2 corner and your number 3 wide receiver, yeah, but if he can truly do both and give you over 80% snap rate on both sides of the ball combined, Yeah, that's a hit. That's a big, big time hit. So while there's some people coming around, there really are, and trying to maybe see if Travis Hunter truly can do this. And so it was for me who was talking about if you break him down individually as a player on the offensive side, the defensive side, he's maybe going to drop a little bit. If you get somebody of the mind that I can get a total snap rate of over 80%, maybe closer to 90 most weeks between both positions, oh yeah, his value is off the charts. There's no question about it. We've had a fun week here. It will continue certainly, with what my opinion is the best Cleveland Browns offseason coverage you're going to get over here at the OBR. Between, certainly, the content here at night, the streaming content, Brad Ward and the crew will be on, later this evening with, things I think I know about the Browns. Brad's a hustler, man. Put out video content every day ain't easy. And Brad's here almost every day, and Brad's putting out the longer stuff. So, make sure you're checking out Brad's work. He does a fantastic job. Again, just appreciate everybody. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed over on the Twitch channel. Checking out the written content every day. Guys are busting their butts, putting out some great stuff. We got a mock draft out every single day right now. Our writers are rotating. I know you guys are having a lot of fun with those, eviscerating some of the mock drafts and loving some of the others. So please continue to stick around doing that. This has been Browns 3D on the OBR. Brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D. And we'll talk to you all next week.